All right.
Oh, quick question. Do you think it would be better to make Caitlin a co-host or
Sure, we can do that. Caitlin, would you like to be our co-host?
I'm honored.
All right. Thank you so much.
let me find you in the list. There we go.
All right. So before we even get started, this is going to be a lot more casual than other Internet Archive celebration events you might have been to in the past. One of my favorite things about working at the Internet Archive is every year during October we have a huge annual bash. And it's kind of a dog and pony show where we show off all of the cool things that we worked on over the course of the year, all of the partnerships, all of the cool features that we're launching. And this year, several of us can probably appreciate this hasn't been a normal year. It's been pretty stressful, difficult for a lot of people. I do want to create a few moments of space to say to just concede that this has been a difficult year. There's probably a lot on people's minds. So the last thing that I want to do is have a nerve-wracking, very structured set of demos. I would rather this be a very casual community call. And to give background, the Open Library has been doing community calls for around 3.5 years, since either late 2016 or the beginning of 2017. And it's a chance for people all over the world to come together and talk about what we're working on, what we want out of our library, to share our own, our own self, and just to get a sense of community. And so I'm going to share some slides to help give folks a little bit of an idea of. All right. How are we looking? Can anyone see the slides? Cool. Fantastic. So welcome to the Open Library Community Celebration 2020. This talk is dedicated to Aaron Swartz, a young man who is no longer with us, but who is the co-founder of the Open Library project at the Internet Archive. For anyone who is new here, welcome to the Internet Archive, which is the parent nonprofit organization that runs the Open Library. The Internet Archive does a bunch of things. It's an archive foremost. We've been recording millions of hours of television news and making it searchable online. A lot of times when you watch things like the Colbert Report or the Jon Stewart Show, they'll have these fun little TV clips that they play in the corner. And sometimes that will come directly from the Internet Archive, which captures a bunch of different channels. We have an internet arcade and a live music collection with more than 2 million tracks from live concerts that people have gifted the Internet Archive. And of course, we have the Wayback Machine and the Open Library Project and more. So we're probably most famous for the tool called the Wayback Machine. What you're seeing here is a timeline of all of these different web captures. It's almost like you've taken a photograph every day. Here it's google.com. And so the Wayback Machine lets you search through all of those snapshots to see how Google changed. And this specific snapshot is from December 1998, where you can see it's Google beta when it was still in Stanford University. We're also a library. And when I say library, I mean like a library. We process more than 50,000 books every month. And when you go to Open Library, or if you're on archive.org and you borrow a book, you're borrowing one of these. And the way that works is we have this metaphorical vacuum tube which sucks up book records. These, think of them as digital library cards with all the information about books from various different partners and from the web, and we coalesce them on openlibrary.org. So we have a knowledge base about what books exist in the world. And then Charles Horn and Chris Freeland, Chris who runs our Open Libraries program, then work together to acquire significant works and to digitize them. And then finally, we lend out this material using a strategy called controlled digital lending that was pioneered both by Michelle Wu and Leila Bailey, who are both pictured on the slides here. And something that's really fascinating that we won't talk too much about today is that Chris Freeland as a part of the Open Libraries program, not to be confused with Open Library. Open Libraries is a way where open libraries from around the world, like Marygrove and the Internet Archive, can work together to kind of share their holdings and make our materials more accessible to patrons around the globe. And then finally, a last step is we showcase all of the books that are in our catalog and that we've digitized on openlibrary.org. Which means Open Library becomes the world's book catalog. It has 5 million titles that you can read and borrow. It has another 20 million books that you can use a little bit more like Goodreads, where we might not have the book for you to read, but you can still say, I'd like to read this, or I've already read it. You can kind of use it to manage your own reading lists. Of course, Open Library is both nonprofit and open source, which means members of the community can jump in and contribute. We also have this wonderful sponsorship program that Tabish helped create, where if there isn't a title on our shelves that you really believe is important to the representation of a library, then you can help make a contribution to make that book available to the community. And that also uses controlled digital lending. And finally, just like Wikipedia, a lot of folks are surprised to learn that Open Library is a wiki. And that means on various pages, you'll see an edit button that you can click. And just as a usual patron, an ordinary vanilla patron, you can make changes to improve the catalog for everyone. So usually when people land on Open Library, their first experience is making a search. They will type in a book, which is kind of like going to a front desk at a library and saying, hey, do you have 1984? And they'll say, oh, here are all the versions of 1984 that we have. You know, go over to that bookcase over there. And so here you can see we search for 1984, and we have 26 different copies that you can read or borrow or preview. And then we have another 180 or so editions that we might not have yet, but we still have all the information about, so that you can maybe find it at your local library if it's not available on the Open Library, or purchase it if you'd like. So another way that you can explore Open Library is by clicking on this Browse tab on the top navigation, which gives you options like browsing by subject, and there's also this K-12 student library, which is something that we added this year. So this is a complete redesign of the subjects page that we did this year, which makes Open Library feel a little bit more like an online bookstore, where everything is neatly categorized by subject. And we thought, this is a nice first step, but how can we make something that directly tailors to students, to educators, and to parents? And so using reading level information, we were able to construct a digital version of a K-12 library sorted by grading level. You can kind of jump directly to the right section and find books that are relevant to either yourself or to your students or your kids. When you find the book that you're interested in, oftentimes there will be either a 1 hour or a 2-week borrow. You'll have the ability to preview it. And if this book is not available, we'll show you other editions that might be. And of course, you can check your local library or book vendors online if you'd like to purchase a copy. And if you do click borrow, in addition to our standard book reader, one of my personal favorite tools at the Internet Archive is the audio reader that Drini Kami worked on at the Internet Archive. And before that, we had a wonderful demo by Mark Carranza. And the audio reader is pretty special because in the past, when you were reading a book on the Internet Archive and you clicked the audio mode, the voices sound very robotic. However, now, they use Google's really high quality text-to-speech, and they synthesize the voices right in the browser. So it sounds a lot more like Siri or Google Directions, which might not be perfect. But for the past 3 years, I've been listening to books on my bike ride to the Internet Archive, and the voices have come a long way. And the other thing that's special about this is if you open up a book that's in French or even in Chinese with Hanzi, with Chinese characters, or with Japanese characters, then it will read it natively in your language with all the right accents. Another way to explore the Open Library is by clicking on the author of a book. And something we added this year is the ability to search within a author's collection to kind of drill down to the exact books that they've published. So I could type in The Knowledge and only see the versions of The Knowledge that are available in the catalog. And of course, in the case where we don't have the book available to read or borrow, you can still use Open Library in a similar way to how you might use Goodreads. So we have a want to read button that you can click. And if you click this drop down, you also have the ability to add books to lists, or mark it as I've already read this book, or I'm currently reading the book. If you go to My Books tab at the top navigation and then click on My Reading Log, you get a holistic overview of all of the books that you've added to your currently reading shelf, to your want to read shelf, to already read. And you also see all of your lists, as well as books that you might have sponsored. We were really surprised at how popular the reading log feature has become. We have around 4 million patrons that enjoy openlibrary.org, and more than 1 million of these patrons, 1 out of every 4, have used the reading log. And of new users, 50% of readers have been using the reading log to now track more than 2 million books. And that information then ends up coming back to help the community. We anonymize all of it so no one's personal information is revealed. But these become really strong signals to help the community discover what works may be popular. And my favorite feature that was added this year to the reading log is this stats button that you can see, which I would love for Drini, who's also on the core Open Library team, to talk about later. But at a glance, it gives you an idea, a lens to look into all the books that you've read and see where your internal biases may be. For instance, you can see here that embarrassingly, I've read far more books that were written by male identifying authors than female. And you also get an idea of the ethnicity of different authors, as well as country of citizenship and a lot of other really interesting factors. And of course, if a book is not available on the Internet Archive that you do believe represents your views and you think that it's an important piece of cultural heritage, then you can use our new book sponsorship program to take a book and donate the funds to digitize a copy and have it become available through our controlled digital lending program. And I'd like to call out Jessica, who I have the privilege of working with. She's on our finance team at the Internet Archive. Both she and I have sponsored copies of books that are really important to us. For her, it's her mother-in-law, Helen, has a wonderful book, A Fresh Start. And for myself, my late great cousin, Jane Wallerstein, has a wonderful book on the Patterson Silk Mills. And both of these books are only available because Jessica and I took the time to sponsor them and make sure that they have a chance of surviving. All right, so how we got here. In 2017, we were really trying to keep the lights on and keep things running. Sorry about that. We were trying to remove all of the bad experiences that we could, everything that had broken in the previous years, and just make a sustainable service that was reliable. And once we had the lights running, we spent the majority of 2018 cultivating community. And I think all the people on this call is a testament to the wonderful job that both Lisa and Drini and Charles Horn and the whole community has invested in order to make sure that we have a strong community of folks with a diverse set of skills, everything from search engine abilities to graphic design to librarian stewardship that's necessary to run a project at the magnitude of the Open Library. In 2019, we tried to open our doors even more and find ways to enable the community to work together on building libraries. It shouldn't just be the Internet Archive and our partners that are responsible for choosing books. The Open Library is a project that everyone in the world should have a say in. And so we've been trying to create a democratic library where anyone in the world can sponsor a book that they feel represents their values. And then finally, in 2020, we've been trying to get the word out and focusing on adoption by book lovers. We have all of these wonderful features that have been created by the community, and still a lot of people don't know about us. Whereas if you look at Goodreads, I think they're one of the top 50 or top 100 websites in the world, and they don't even have books to borrow. So we're hoping that by celebrating the accomplishments of the community, we'll also be able to get the word out and help people better understand what offerings we have at the Open Library and at the Internet Archive. And none of this would have been possible if it weren't for the community. We had more than 12 people from the community contributing to the Open Library this year. and it resulted in 12 major victories. And we saw around 70% of all of these victories were only achievable because they were run and led by volunteers. So I want to be the first to give an enormous thank you to everyone in the community who invested their time, their energy, and their passion to help more people in the world discover Open Library as a resource and to just make the experience better for everyone. And I would love to hand it off to the community now to talk a little bit about some of the things that we've worked on. Again, the format is going to be really casual, so I hope you enjoy hearing from our community members on their accomplishments. And on that note, I would love to hand it over to Lisa to talk to us about supporting librarians. And Lisa, let me know if you need any help with screen sharing. All right, stellar.
Can you see? Can you hear?
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, hi everyone. My name's Lisa. I'm lead community librarian for Open Library. This year there have been a number of improvements making it easier for librarians to help improve Open Library, and I'll show some of those to you now. A big focus this past year has been elimination of duplicates. To date, there have been over 13,000 works resolved, which means consolidating duplicate records, of course, but it also means delinking non-matching works that have been improperly combined. William Shakespeare, for example, was reduced from having over 2,000 works under his authorship down to 2,000 by consolidating duplicates. So why is this important? When a patron is searching for a title, they see multiple records for a given work, and it may be unclear to them which is the right book that they're looking for. Which one do they want to add to their reading log, for example? Or how about if a patron searches for Pride and Prejudice, but only Sense and Sensibility shows up on the search results page? The ability to search and identify the right book quickly is essential to improve the patron experience. Thanks to a team of over 10 librarians and engineers, we've been able to improve the patron experience and librarians' ability to process merges faster. Thanks especially to Drini for building this tool that I'll show you right now. So I already did the search. So I searched for a book title called Wolves Eat Dogs. The way these can be consolidated, all three records, is just by selecting them, and then merging. This will bring up a confirmation screen just so you can check to make sure everything looks good, how many people have it on their shelves, how many people have it on lists, etc. If everything looks good, then it's possible to just go ahead and merge the records. And then all of the additions associated with each of those will be consolidated into the one. So that's fairly new. That's still in development, but hopefully fully rolled out soon. Collection pages. So frequent inquiry from librarians is how they can link related books together, such as a series or a specially curated collection. The collection pages have been introduced to do just that. For example, one of our librarians, Daniel, created a Spanish history collection of graphic novels, and another librarian, Blair, created a meta-series page for a popular series of juvenile literature called Rainbow Magic, which is a series of series. So now she's been able to put them all on one page. Looks great.
Yeah, I think if we go to openlibrary.org, is it /collections?
Yep.
It's not a super pretty list yet. I think it's just, it renders it as links, but that's kind of a good way to see all of the different collections that members of the community and our librarian group have been putting together.
Yes. The Slack channel. So the Slack channel is for communication. Communication can sometimes be a challenge. The Slack channel has been created specifically for librarians to easily communicate with each other in one place without filling out tedious forms or getting unwanted notifications about technical discussions that may be outside of their direct interest. The Slack channel is a place where librarians can quickly and easily ask how-to questions or bring attention to other issues that may come up. And then recent improvement is better author merging. So until recently, merging author profiles was tricky. So again, if you have duplicates, you don't want to have duplicates, so you want to merge them. And previously, one small mistake could actually result in a somewhat major disaster. So thanks to GimChamp, this process has become a bit less risky. So for example, I did a search for Christopher Pike. It's, I guess, somewhat common name. So there are a few authors named Christopher Pike. You can see different birth years. And so say I want to merge two of these, but not the one that's necessarily the most popular. So by default, this guy's selected. Previously, if I were to select someone else, he would still say selected, even though someone else would become the target for the merge, kind of the default author. So now instead, what happens is when you change, it'll also change the selection from the default, which is really useful. And then also, as you scroll down, your information that you're comparing to stays right on the page. And then I think Mech, do you want to take over?
Sure. That was stellar. Also, Jim, nice job. I forgot that the top, the primary author, it remains sticky. So as you scroll down, you can see which author is the primary to be merged into. Yeah, that's great. I love that. Nice job. Thank you, Lisa. That's phenomenal. So one thing that we should also mention is that when that library merging tool is only available to members of the community that have been kind of blessed as librarians. We have a librarian group. If you're interested in helping us merge records and improve the quality of data, Lisa has been our community librarian for almost 2 years, I believe now. Also wanted to give a virtual high five because Lisa recently joined the patron services team at the Internet Archive full team, and we are so extremely lucky to have Lisa on staff. So thanks so much. In terms of calls to action, if you'd like to be a librarian, let Lisa know. And as you've seen, also engineering efforts play a big role in making sure that librarians can do what they do. So Jim and Drini and others have been making, and Charles Horn have been making tremendous advancements. And one thing that I would love to show is how engineering efforts can also be used to create bots and help book imports and book fixes at scale. And I would love to invite Guy to present next.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Guy. Forgive me for not putting my video on. My internet bandwidth probably wouldn't handle it. As Mech said, today I'm going to talk about bots and issue management and how that's can help Open Library.
And would you like me to share the slides, Guy?
Sure. Can you guys not see it?
I'm not seeing it yet. I can just share for you if you'd like. All right.
Okay, great. Yeah, so the first task that I did as a volunteer was related to project management. Specifically, what you can see on the left-hand side is the state of the Open Library code base, specifically the issues related to the code at the end of 2018. And then on the right is a snapshot from a couple days ago. What I want to highlight are the labels on each of the issues. 2 years ago, Open Library had issue documentation, but we weren't conforming to it. Specifically, we had some 400 or so issues, but we didn't have a way to index them or sort them by their topic or who they affected. And the problem that this caused was some legitimate issues that were affecting, let's say, librarians or patrons of the site were being lost, and they weren't being discussed for weeks, months, sometimes years. So the first task I completed was going through some 500 issues and labeling them so that we could identify what type of issue it was, who it affected and what was the way to correct the issue, and also assign the lead, the person who knew the most about that subject matter. And what this allows us to do is to kind of understand what are the biggest issues for the project, how many issues do we have in a certain field, and what are the highest priorities is used to address. And the comments I've gotten back from the staff at Internet Archive is that this has been very helpful. And more importantly, it prevents issues from falling through the cracks. When I first did this slog, I found issues as old as from 2012 that hadn't been addressed in years. But now that's fixed, and we can actually sort through the things that are we want to fix with the website. And the next task I wanted to tackle, and I'm actively tackling, are bots to help mend open library data. Lisa just talked about conflated issues and how librarians can sort that through. But there are some very repetitive tasks that computers can identify. So on the top here, you're seeing a change done by ISBN bot. What it's done is it took an ISBN that had hyphens in it and simply removed them. And this specific bot did that to some 65,000 plus editions. And the reason why this is useful is the search that Open Library use cannot parse ISBNs with hyphens in it. A human can see that very easily, but the way that search works in Open Library, it has to be just numbers and letters. And it would be, as great as our librarian community is, it would not be very nice to make them do that for 65,000 editions. So we can make a Python script do that very quickly. And in the bottom screenshot here is you're seeing CoverBot adding a cover to an edition that had a scan within the Internet Archive. And it did this for over 600,000 editions. And again, you know, our librarian community is great, but it would not be very nice to make them do that for 60,000 editions. And so data integrity, these really repetitive, easy tasks for a computer to identify, can be done with a bot very quickly and can greatly improve the patron experience and also reduce the work that our librarians have to do. And that's what I've been working on for the past couple of months with Drini and Mech. And I invite everyone who is interested to create your own bot, identify your problem, a problem, and write a script for it. We just released, or Mech just released, a new edition or version of the Open Library client that has some built-in bot capabilities. Some of you have seen this next document, some of you haven't, but I want to go through it very quickly. So can you guys see the screen? Can you see the Open Library Bots 101? Yes? No?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is a Google Colab document. For some of you, for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's essentially a Google Doc, but you can run Python code within it. Even for the most seasoned developers, creating a Python environment can be kind of difficult. And so we've put together a living document, an interactable document that allows you to use the Open Library client pre-set up. And I'm not going to go through this entire thing, but one thing I want to point out, just to show how easy it is to get data out of Open Library through this, is this example right here. So with this line, what I'm doing is I'm searching Open Library for the work Hamlet. And with this line, what I'm asking the Python script to do is to tell me the name of the author that wrote this work. And with this line, I'm searching Open Library for Maya Angelou. And then I'm asking the client to tell me what day Maya Angelou was born. And I can run this live in the Google Colab. Just give that some time to think. And it tells me that William Shakespeare wrote Hamlet and that Maya Angelou was born on April 4th, 1928. And this client is calling Open Library live, and as Open Library gets updated, you can see those live edits through this client. Again, I don't want to go through this entire thing, but this client gives us the tools to tell a computer how to sort through information that Open Library has and make decisions based off of it. And that's how these bots are born. So I'll just leave it at that. Again, I invite you to make a bot if you're interested. Also, this is my handle on Open Library G. If you have any questions for me, feel free to hit me up.
Thank you, Guy. That's phenomenal. So the Open Library client is a Python library that you can use to create bots. And as Guy said, if you don't want to go through the whole process of installing the Open Library client, the Google Colab, which is linked here, is a great sandbox where everything is installed for you in the cloud, and you can just click through each section almost like it's a little recipe. And it will do all the computation right there, and you can make edits and rerun it. All right. Lauren, would you like to tell us a little bit about the best book on?
Sure thing. Do you want me to share my screen or?
Yeah, you're welcome to do that. Let me
Awesome.
stop sharing.
All right. Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on the call. Really excited to share with you some of the work we've been doing to find the best book on any given subject. So what we're working on is developing an open platform for people to discover the best book in any given context. So what does that mean for you? So imagine you've been looking for the best book on particle physics and you're a beginner. You don't really know much about particle physics, as I imagine most of us do not. When you're looking for a book on the internet, it's quite difficult to understand the context in which a book is written on traditional review sites. So you might see that a book on particle physics has 4 stars, but 60% of the reviews are talking about how it was delivered on time. That's not very helpful. So what we're aiming to do is to create a platform where people are able to say, I want to find the best book on particle physics, or I want to find the best book that's funny and has pirates in it. And we're looking to create a graph through which the community, you lovely people, are submitting your own recommendations for and your own requests for how you want to discover books. So some of the first initial steps we're taking toward solving this problem are surveying everyone, getting to understand how people are discovering books currently is crucial for us to build something that can help serve the greatest amount of people in a very efficient and good manner, I suppose. So what we discovered is that when people are making decisions about what to read next, it's not really about something having 3 stars or 4 stars on Goodreads or Amazon or even Open Library. It's about their friends. It's about the experts that they are searching out to discover what they are recommending. So at the core, what the best book on is really about people. And it's really about understanding how the community is going to make and ask for recommendations. So then we'll be able to feed that data into Open Library. And at the end of this whole process, we're going to have better recommendations for readers. So what this has taken shape of for over the last few months as we've been working on it is we've assembled a wonderful team. And you can see some of their faces here on this slide. And as far as action items, what we're looking for as we're developing this platform is for you, if you're free, we'd love to have you volunteer with us. We'd love for you to participate in our reader research. We'd love if you could submit a book recommendation. So maybe you know a ton about particle physics and you have read 3 different books on it and you know this is the best book for beginners. And you're going to tell the community that. I'd love for you to submit that. Or perhaps you've been looking for a book. Maybe you're looking for a book on how to learn calculus, which I am looking for right now. So I am going to be asking the community how to learn calculus as a beginner. Yeah, and so that is the best book on. Great, thanks.
Thanks, Lauren. Lauren is an expert in user research, and that's been a skill that we've been lacking at the Open Library for a really long time. And I think it's really a testament to like what diversity truly means, finding people from around the globe that come together with different skill sets to make a project work. So Lauren has been volunteering and just putting a lot of time into leading our community calls for the Best Book On, and really grateful for all of your contributions. If you do want to try out a very early demo of the Best Book On, you can go to thebestbookon.com. We'll post eventually, either to chat or somewhere else. It's not fully configured yet, and so as we develop the website, we have these Google Forms that we set up that Lauren linked to in the slides. So while we're trying to get everything polished, you can at least help us seed some data, which we can then use. And next, Nolan, if you're willing to talk a little bit about the Book Genome Project. And I also want to give a shout out that I met Nolan when he was still in early high school, and he had traveled all the way to the Internet Archive from, what was it, LA at the time, Nolan?
Yes.
All the way from LA to visit the Internet Archive, and was so excited and talking my ear off about all of the stuff that he knew about the Internet Archive. And we've been extremely lucky to work with Nolan. And as soon as Nolan graduated from high school, the first thing he did was move by himself to Montana to contribute in activism for the 2020 election. And I stepped up to help him just a little bit with the slides, because I think everyone can appreciate he's been pretty booked in a state that was 48% to 48% for a while. But Nolan, thank you for finding the time and for everything you've contributed to the project. And I'm excited to hear about the Open Book Genome Project.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that handoff. And yeah, my name's Nolan. I'm a volunteer contributor to the Open Library, and I'll be introducing the Open Book Genome Project. And firstly, a massive thank you to MEC for doing the brunt of the work regarding this presentation and this event as a whole, as well as being the mastermind behind this, amazing project, this Open Book Genome Projects, and that I'm so excited to talk about. All right. Cool. So in 2000, Pandora was created by the Music Genome Project, and it's now the de facto music identification service, and that is known by many for finding a tune that somebody might like, or finding similar music. And the idea was to capture the essence of music at its most fundamental level. So the way they did that is they indexed many musical works and derived over 450 attributes that work as a functional fingerprint or genome of the specific piece. So those are things like, for example, you can see in the screenshot levels of vibrato and the lead vocal, or maybe the prominence of vocal harmony. And based on these different attributes, a pretty accurate sort of fingerprint or kind of hash is able to be created about this, really complicated piece of information, which is a musical piece that then allowed for that music to be identified by many others in the future once it had been indexed. So then in 2003, the Book Genome Project was launched to apply the idea that Pandora had kind of worked on of music genome, and apply that to books, another sort of very complex piece of information. And booklamp.org, which is the home of the Book Genome Project, was created to provide insights on the various books that were indexed. For example, you can see in the bottom right corner for Stephen King's Salem's Lot, you can see the prevalence of various themes throughout the contents of the books. For example, you can see vampires and the supernatural become much more prevalent sort of in the middle and at the end. And this is something that you can really only do when you have the text of the book available, and you go through and find these attributes and apply various sort of analyses.
I should also
And
mention that the Book Genome Project predates our work. It was an existing project by a different group of people, and it
right,
was a
yes.
source of inspiration for us.
Yeah, the Book Genome Project, different than what we're working on, which I'll introduce in just a moment. And in 2014, Booklamp and Book Genome were acquired by Apple and shut down and became part of the Apple ecosystem, kind of. So it's and that code base was totally closed and it was not available. So that means that all the work that had gone into that was, for the most part, not really available to the public anymore. So this really amazing tool that had just begun development stopped.
My favorite part is the way that we were able to learn more about it was actually by using the Wayback Machine. So we were able to look up booklamp.org and also the Book Genome, bookgenome.org website, and look at all of the documentation that they had left over from before the project shut down.
Yeah, Wayback Machine, a really incredible tool for everybody. It's now so easy to take for granted because it's just used so all the time, and it's so useful. But really amazing tool for the rest of the time that was created there for the preservation of information. So the next, Internet Archive has 5 million plus and growing digitized books. So that means that the books have been scanned and that they have been analyzed, and now we have access to, using optical character recognition, the text of the book, which we're able to then use computers and systems to interact with. So the question is, how do we make this really incredible resource as valuable as possible to readers all around the globe? So that's through doing things like identifying important terms such as people in the book, places, topics, and dates that are mentioned in the book. 2, automatically calculating reading level and pace of the book. So for example, if somebody wanted to find a good book to give to young learners or young readers or people who are reading as reading whatever language as a second language, whatever the person is looking for, it's through these sort of approaches that's something that can be made available. Generating book summaries so people know what they're going to read. Extracting citations, references, URLs, and identifiers. So that's another thing. A lot of times there are references made in books that to other pieces of information that obviously, because they're printed, they're not hyperlinks. They're not something that you can automatically find whatever is being referenced, but that's something that has the potential of being made easier to access, just linking it directly there. And even comparing books' similarity based on themes, which was somewhat described before. So introducing the Open Book Genome Project. So the Open Book Genome Project is this idea where in this year, 2020, where the community is working to breathe life back into the idea of Book Genome, where we take the same idea and make it open source and available to the community and to the world to contribute and to derive and to create. So we're taking a transparent, nonprofit, and open approach to creating a book analyzer that anyone may freely apply for public good. And we intend that this community maintained analyzer be run against the Internet Archive's books every quarter and improving over time and resulting in open data, which is free to use by all, which is really fantastic. So we have all these books. Now we can really, along with making them available to people, can turn it into something meaningful, find trends, do science, and there's just so much potential here that is really hard to comprehend, where we have the knowledge of people who have been writing books throughout history, now that we're able to quickly index, that we're able to find attributes and trends and themes, and that's why this is such an exciting project. If you'd like to learn more, feel free to read the white paper, contribute to our sequencer software library on GitHub, which you can find at our website, bookgenomeproject.org. And we've already sequenced more than 1,000 books, And if you're interested in contributing to this project, or if you want to learn more, or if you have any questions, feel free to contact me if you'd like to get involved. And yeah, you can do that on our Slack, or you can contact me on Twitter or GitHub or anywhere you'd like. And yeah, that's about it. And I hope you enjoyed that. And we're really looking forward to what we're going to be able to build together in the future. So thank you.
Thanks, Nolan. That's tremendous. One of the reasons that the Book Genome Project is so important is we have almost 2 million books that are in a controlled digital lending program. And a lot of times people will just need access to a book because they want to see what the sources are. They want to check the citations. And one of the limitations of having these barriers in place is that I can't zoom out and see how 1,000 books are all interconnected. I can't see what is the most connected book out of that whole group of books. And that's something that might be really interesting. Which book is the most referenced book? Right now, we don't let people answer that question. And so liberating the knowledge and these dependencies, which are latent and inherent within books, is a huge opportunity for the community to both continue respecting controlled digital lending, but also surfacing all of the valuable raw metadata, which is required to empower people to make good book choices. And next, I would love to invite Jim, who has been a tour de force on our front end and on improving user experiences, to talk about what he's been working on. And Jim, would you like me to share slides, or would you like to share?
I think that I can do it. Let me give it a shot here. Okay, are you able to see?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Jim, and I've been volunteering at Open Library for about 2 months now. My work has been mainly focused on UI changes that will improve the experiences of the folks that are using the site. I also helped out a bit with the Best Book On. So right now, actually, Mac, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, I would love to provide a little context. So we have a bunch of different approaches that are happening simultaneously. One of them is the bestbookon.com, which Lauren is helping to lead. And that's a way for people to provide really high quality and rigorous book recommendations. They'll say, the reason why I am qualified to give this book recommendation is I've read 3 books on this topic, and of these 3, maybe this book, Artificial Intelligence: A Modern Approach, is the best of those 3. So rather than just getting a star rating, you get this really rich review, which other people can see, oh, this book is being compared to these 2 and it's better. And the the Open Book Genome Project is attempting to streamline that by seeing what information we can pull out of the full text of the book to see, is there a way to determine the reading level at scale for every book? There's a wonderful web service online called the StoryGraph, which is not something that we created, but we've drawn a lot of inspiration from. And they solved a critical problem, which is oftentimes librarians will fight on what metadata is correct. There's only one right answer. It's either fiction or nonfiction, and there's no room for gray area. And this one thing that the earlier Book Lamp and Book Genome Project got right was showing that a book is really a bunch of percentages about what we think a book is. It's like, maybe it's 25% romance, but it's really 30% drama, or maybe it's 10% mystery. And StoryGraph created a system where anyone in the world can have a vote into describing what a book is. So here you're seeing 100% of the community thought that the book Sapiens was informative, but only 3% thought that it was relaxing. So maybe if you're looking for a book to soothe your anxieties, Sapiens may not be the right choice for you. But we thought, yet again, just like the Book Genome Project, maybe there was an opportunity to take this new model of empowering patrons to participate in the library and implement something similar and open on the Open Library. Jim, would you like to show what we came up with?
Sure. So this is currently in beta testing right now. But whenever you navigate to a books page on Open Library, you'll see a link that says, "What did you think?" Clicking on this will present a number of different aspects about the book that you can submit to the best book on. So this compiler's book, we can say it's a reference textbook. It's technical, nonfiction. I think that's about enough. I can submit that, and this information is sent to the best book on and persisted for future use.
And so over time, what we could do is on the book page show 60% of people thought this was an informative book, or 10% thought it was fast-paced. And we all get to work together to help people discover which books are best for their learning style.
Thanks, Mick. Okay, some
And
other things.
Thanks also really quickly to Asif and Lauren, who put a ton of time into getting the questions right and also implementing some of the back end with Jim on that.
So some other things I've been working on. You may be familiar with the editions table that is present when you navigate to a books page on Open Library. The editions table will list all the different editions of a specific work. The issue was that the original default number of books that it showed was 3. So if we're looking at this book, Animal Farm, you can see that there's 119 editions. So finding the specific edition, you would have to either change the number of entries that are displayed, or go through each of the pages. If you do change the number of editions that are displayed, this did not persist across pages. So if you tried to look at a different book, it would go back to the default display of 3. To solve this, we've persisted the display preference on users' browsers so that whenever they choose another book to look at, it'll display the same amount of books in the editions table. So hopefully this will help avoid frustration of resetting the preferences every time you look at a new book. Another issue was the search mode. Initially, whenever you search for a book, it would only display the ebooks. So you see here that's searching for the Midnight Library. If you were looking for the Matt Haig edition, you might not see it initially. So this is sort of the same as the editions table. We save the preference to the preference mode as everything, so that all books will be displayed whenever a search is made. Yeah, this is helpful because I think we have about 20 million records that cannot be found whenever you're using an ebooks only search. Another thing that was recently not working correctly was cover management. So any logged in patron or librarian has the ability to delete or add covers. But unfortunately, there was a bug that kept people from deleting covers. So I corrected that. Now covers can be removed. There was also a recent issue where if you wanted to mark a book as on your reading list that you were currently reading, you would click through in some cases and accidentally give the book a star rating, which would then mark the book as already read, which is a pretty bad experience. This has been corrected, and now modifying your reading list will behave as expected. Okay, and please help us continue to improve. If you'd like to contribute as a front-end engineer, you can go to openlibrary.org/volunteer. There's also a variety of different volunteering opportunities there as well. And if you see any bugs, please let us know. If you have a GitHub account, you can open an issue there.
Jim, thank you so much for your monumental efforts here. Jim has been contributing for about two months, and already he's probably solved more issues than I have, embarrassingly, over the entire year. So we're so lucky to have Jim with us. He's very knowledgeable, and very thankful for all the work that Jim has done. And next, I would love to welcome Giacomo to talk a little bit about what's new in BookReader.
Hi everyone, I'm Giacomo from Italy, and participated this year with GSOC on BookReader, and together with my mentor Drini, we worked on some feature for BookReader. So yeah, I share my screen. Okay, maybe the biggest feature that we have worked on is text selection. And it allows to select text from the images of a book, like it was a normal text on a normal web page. And this is a very good feature because it allows to use books as normal text, so it's more easily to share part of a book and use them as you like. And for now, this feature is also available on mobile BookReader, but unfortunately, it is working only on unrestricted books from Internet Archive that are copyright free. And another reason because this feature is important, in my opinion, is that it has the potential to be expanded, and other features can be added on top of that, such as having permanent highlights of your favorite part of your favorite books, or even having something as simple as a small pop-up that lets you quickly share the selected text or something like that. And yeah, I would encourage people to use this feature and share on their favorite pieces of text from their favorite books on social media, on Twitter, and things like that. This summer, also I've worked on visual adjustments for BookReader. So basically, in mobile BookReader, in the hamburger menu on the side, we have added a checklist in which you can select different visual adjustments that are applied to the book page, so that it can enhance your ability to see correctly the text. Maybe you want to have an higher brightness because the book is a bit too dark, or higher contrast, or maybe the most interesting feature is having a dark mode, so that the white background gets black and the text gets white, and it is very good for nighttime reading. And yeah, another features that these filters are you can combine them together, so you can have your favorite combinations of filters. And unfortunately, for now, it's only available on the mobile versions of BookReader. And yeah, for last, I've also worked this summer on the mobile version of the table of contents. It was a feature that was already present on the desktop book reader and also added to the mobile version of it. It is still in the hamburger menu to the side, and it lets you scroll throughout all the chapters and click on them, and it will turn the pages to the correct chapter. And it also highlights the current chapter that you are currently reading. And other than that, I will also solve some minor bugs fixes and helped a bit with testing, especially end-to-end testing. And also made possible that high resolution images are available for high resolution displays when using Book Reader. I think that is all.
Thank you so much, Giacomo. Also, you can imagine how the text selection might be combined with the Book Genome Project, where we have the Book Genome robot that finds every single URL that is hidden within books. In the Book Reader, because we have the text selection, we can identify areas of the book. We could actually make these links natively clickable in the book. And if that's not enough, one thing we could be doing is, as we discover these links in books, we could save every single one in the Wayback Machine to make sure that all of this knowledge is preserved and we never have, that's the benefit of books, right? They're printed out, they're semi-permanent, but the web changes all the time. And so this would give us the ability to have a book which includes URLs that you could click, that would be frozen in time and linked to the Wayback Machine. Next, I would love to hand over the mic to Chris Klaus to talk about some of the improvements that we've been making on our physical infrastructure and servers to keep the project up and running.
Okay, and if you could put up the slides, that would be great for me.
Sure thing.
So as Max said, I work sort of on the back end of things. The Open Library is composed of a lot of older software written in a programming language called Python that we've already seen once, at least in this set of presentations. So I work with Drini and Charles and Mac on some of the back end code, and there's sort of three activities I'm up to. One is we're making a migration, if we can go to the next slide, to Python 3, which is sort of the modern version of that language. We are doing a lot more in the way of automated testing so we can find bugs faster and solve them faster. And then last but not least, we're using more modern tools for the way we put software onto computers and get those computers to start up. So if you look at the Open Library, it's actually running across a lot of servers, more than 10 servers that are all talking to each other. And a lot of that work has been done sort of in a manual way. So one of the things that we're doing is documenting in a much more robust way how each of those computers is set up and how the communication passes between those computers. And then the other thing that we're doing is the language that we based a lot of the software on is really reached its end of life at the beginning of this year. And so we're making a transition to a new version of that language, which is called Python 3. So, I sort of came into a situation where we have a lot of very, very interesting software, which is being used by a lot of people to do very interesting work, but it needs some updating. And so Charles and Drini and Mac and I, we do that updating. If we can go to the next slide. Python 3 again is this programming language that all this is based on. And I saw a couple of years ago that the Open Library was was really sort of had old code, and so I submitted what I thought was just a simple change, and it was a simple change. But since then, I've posted more than 300 other changes to sort of modernize what we do and how we do it. And what we realize is there's the open library, but then underneath the open library, there's all sorts of other tools. Infogami lets us find information quickly. WebPy lets us create web pages and get them to the screen. You know, a whole range of tools have had to be changed and updated and modernized. And in this all, it's been an archaeological journey through some very interesting code created by Aaron Schwartz, which, you know, Max started this call saying that this call is dedicated to Aaron Schwartz. And if you don't know who Aaron Schwartz is, I would highly recommend you study up on this very, very interesting person. But from my perspective, the code I've gotten to go through has been very interesting to read through and sort of see his personality from his code. Sort of fascinating. Next slide. And you know, some of the other work that we're doing is we're automating testing so that every time somebody makes a change, we run a whole series of tests automatically to make sure that code isn't going to cause troubles. And then we're working very vigorously with a technology called Docker, which basically lets us set up servers very, very quickly and in a very repeatable fashion. And so basically what that allows us to do is replace a lot of this hand-built technology that we're relying on with a very automated system. So all these tools are sort of things that fascinate me, and you know, my call to action would be, if any of you are interested in any of these aspects of how the Open Library is put together, please reach out to me. I'm happy to pair program with you, to work with you, to give you pointers on how to learn more. Always looking to interact with members of the community. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Chris. It reminds me a little bit of this, I don't remember what TV show it is, but there's this guy who is trying to fix a light bulb. And in order to get the light bulb, he opens the closet door and the shelf falls down. So he tries to fix the shelf and realizes he's missing a hammer or something, and looks in his tool case, then figures out he needs to, you know, take his car to pick up, you know, new tools. And then his wife comes home and he's like fixing the engine of his car, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "The light bulb is out." And he's like, "I know, what do you think I'm trying to do?" And Chris is just one of these tremendous people who works behind the scenes, and a lot of the things that he does make an enormous impact on the survivability and the maintenance of this project. And so I'm so glad that folks were able to see the work that Chris has been doing, and also want to congratulate Chris, who recently joined the Internet Archive as a full-time team member. Thanks both for all of your contributions, and it's wonderful to have you on the team.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, and so let me switch over really quickly here. I believe Tabish is going to be up next.
Yeah, Mike, please, can you just share the slides?
Yes, I can. Just give me one moment here. All right.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Tabish. I've been a volunteer for several years in Open Library. I previously worked on the book sponsorship program with MEC as a part of the IA Summer of Code intern. Then this year, as a Google Summer of Code intern, I worked on projects which helped us improving user experience and increase our distribution. So, during my years of volunteering, we recognized several indicators that Open Library could be better serving its mission by distributing to a larger audience. Open Library has several millions of books. It has almost 2 million lendable books, but it has an Alexa rank of somewhere around 11,000, whereas Goodreads doesn't have any lendable books, but still has an Alexa rank of 300. So we found that this area was where we could improve a lot and increase Open Library, spread the word of Open Library. So the first issue we sought out to solve was improving our sign-up process. Next, yeah. Improving a sign-up process. So we discovered that almost 1/5 of the patrons were dropping off at sign-up wherein they hit an error, something as like the screen name is taken or the email address is taken, or they have not checked the captcha box. So after like submitting the for sign up form, the whole form would get cleared off, and then the user would be like, I have to fill all of that again. So yeah, so to improve this bad user experience, we added real-time sign up validation, so that user can see if the username is taken or the email address is already registered, and all of that. Yeah, then the next issue the next feature actually we worked on was the Goodreads importer and the Open Library reading log export. So like many like book lovers and people refer to Goodreads, and they have a whole reading catalog there. So we wanted them to like easily move their whole reading log to Open Library. So therefore, we implemented the Goodreads importer, wherein anyone can just upload a exported Goodreads like reading log, and all the books would be loaded in Open Library. Yeah. Then the third thing I worked on to improve, this one is the biggest one, was the new books page. So previously, like we had two pages. One was the works page and one was the editions page. Now I'll not get into the details of that. There's a whole like 20-30 pages blog post by Mech. The main reason like we did this was to like the experience was pretty confusing for users. Like sometimes they would land on a work page, sometimes they would land on an edition page, and how to go through those pages. So what we did was we unified both of the pages into one simple user interface, and we have like to show all the different editions of a book. We have the works editions table wherein the user can like simply search for any of the book he wants. So yeah, this was like one of the major changes to Open Library this year. And yeah, so the impact it had was that around 66% of the people thought that it is a change in the positive direction. 17% they had no preference, and 22 people thought that it was a step behind. But yeah, we had a majority of the people saying that it was a change in the positive direction. So yeah, that was a good thing. Yeah, and the last thing is like one of my favorite projects I've worked on Open Library, which is called the BorrowBot. So yeah, the thinking behind this was that how do we reach more patrons and help them discover more books on Open Library. So like whenever I was scrolling on Twitter, I would see all that Amazon links, and I would search that Amazon title on Open Library to find if the book is available to read for free. So to remove all the friction from the process, we built a Twitter bot named BorrowBot, where you can just below the Amazon link comment @BorrowBot, like, and is this book available, and something like that. And it would show that like, hi Tabish, this book is available to read for free on Open Library. So like this like reduces the friction between finding a book on Open Library through other sources. And yeah, it's great for like spreading the word of Open Library too. So yeah, it was fun working on this project. So like if any of the volunteers would like to help, they could try to find some tweets with Amazon links and reply @BorrowBot, or like help improving the BorrowBot to do more cool things. Yeah, and that's it.
Thanks, Tavish. Yeah, this is super exciting. The code for the BorrowBot is also open source, and so if you want to extend it to do more creative things, then send Tabish a message, and I would love to see more people trying this out on Twitter to discover available books to borrow. Nick, would you like to go next?
Yep.
And would you like me to share, or?
Yeah, the slides would be, you could, please.
Absolutely.
Cool. Hey, y'all, what's up? Okay, so I'm Nick, and I am part of the communications team here at Open Library. I've got a really cool job. I get to help greet people that are coming in as part of the communications team, guide them and help them understand where we need them best in communications. So welcome to my workshop. It's the word workshop, it's mine. And I want to share a little bit about some of the things that we've been working on. As you'll see in the next slide, probably one of the things that really makes me feel really juiced up and fired up about is bouncing around the Slack with so many people and workers and folks at Open Library and the archive that are doing innovation and making books more accessible, more readable, and easier to navigate. And that comes with complexity. So I get to really write articles and tell stories to make sense of that for users or community members or everyday people who want to interact with our library. And the benefit of that is it exposes them to the value that our teams are doing at the Open Library and Archive, and it also really lets them know that there's more to a book than just simply clicking it on a website, and that's my job. So what I'd like to do is maybe share some of our articles that are key cornerstone articles, give you an idea of what's coming up for Open Library and how you can find some of these articles in the future. So there's an article that you'll come in contact with is about the Library Explorer. You probably may have heard some things about that. And that's, I mean, simply put, the Library Explorer is, just think about taking your favorite real library in your neighborhood and dumping it in your browser and having that real experience. That's just a simple way to put it. The only thing you can't do is sniff books. Like I like to sniff books, you can't do that. But I think Samsung is coming up with a way to sniff books. They got this smell-o-vision or something like that. But yeah, it's an article that like kind of puts you right there on what to expect for this Library Explorer. Some of the people who worked on it. It's really, really cool. The author stats, Mech and some of the others mentioned that a little bit earlier. Every book has a voice, right? Whether it's coming from the character or the author has their voice coming out of the book as well. A lot of times we just rely on our imagination to discern what those voices look like. Well, the team at the Open Library and the developers and everybody has come up with a way to help really actualize those voices in data. And that article is going to really bring out ways that author stats can let you see the voices that you're reading about. And Mech mentioned this earlier. If you're reading books that are primarily of one genre or one author type or one, cultural demographic, it doesn't mean you're not willing to expose or broaden your lens. You just may not know. Sometimes we get readers' comfort, right? So being able to look at these stats can help you understand ways that you can perhaps branch out and turn your imagination into real impact and see how you can step into new voices that are in books around other authors as well. So then there's an article about literacy, the workplace, and escapism. Like, I think that's really, really, really a cool article. How reading and literacy can expose you and help you get new opportunities, right? But not only that, literacy can help us escape hopelessness. So it's an article that is personal to me in that I share my story of how literacy pulled me out of the streets, how it pulled me from some very difficult and hopeless situations, and how the Internet Archive and Open Library are using literacy to help readers around the world access it, but to also improve their situation as well in different ways. So that's really cool. And then, of course, there's cultural preservation. And in this particular article, this is the focus on this one is the book sponsorship program at the Open Library. And I think that, if humans could have sponsored dinosaurs, maybe they would still be around, right? Maybe you could look out your window and see a pterodactyl flying, right? It might be louder than that dump truck that's outside my window right now. But anyway, but we now have the opportunity to sponsor books. And there's more to it than just what some people may think. We have a chance to preserve culture and preserve books through the Open Library sponsorship program. So you may want to think of it like a big old comet fiery comment that's coming toward all books in the world, right? So we have an opportunity through the sponsorship library program to move that comment in a different direction, and hopefully it fizzles out before it hits another planet or something. But this is what we're doing here at the Open Library. As far as writing articles and producing content, we would love to have volunteers to help out with communications. To give you a snapshot of what we see and what we're driving towards as we head into 2021, we would like to make communications, news, innovation, updates, upgrades, accessible and more local for readers in different parts of the world. So to help do that, one thing that we're doing now is building up the volunteer communications program so that we can arrange the volunteers in such a way that we can start to now focus on localization of our content on a global level. So that's going to be even more exciting. So you can go to the Open Library website to volunteer. And you can also go to blog.openlibrary.org if you want to see some of the content. Better yet, you can go to follow us on Twitter. And what's cool about that is we'll be tweeting some of these new articles as they come out. Now, I want to introduce you to my cat. And there's a reason why, because on the next slide, which is cool, is because I think why I'm here is Open Library is, I guess you would call it, my tribe. And, you know, I'm in a master's program right now, finishing it up in digital communications. And to be honest with you, I just feel like, what's the need to pursue anything else when you found your first love? And this presentation is bittersweet because I have to tell the world how great I have it at Open Library, and that means more people are gonna come. So, and listen, I'm staying right here, y'all, because I love it so much. And in all seriousness, I would love more people to come join us. We have the freedom to be ourselves, to learn things about ourselves. This is my cat. He's a part of my life. And you may be thinking, well, what's a cat have to do with it? As much as what we all have to do with sharing our everyday lives at the Open Library. And that's why it's fun.
I think everyone can tell how incredibly lucky we are to have Nick a part of our Open Library team. He's made such a huge difference in not only getting the word out, but making sure that word is comprehensible and just completely accessible to different types of people through his wonderful stories. Nick, thank you for being here, and thanks for putting so much time into telling our story. All right. Drini, are you available to give us a tour of the Library Explorer and all of the other awesome advancements for Open Library 2020?
Hopefully. Can you hear me?
Yes. Would you like to share your screen?
Yes, I would. I've had a bit of a plethora of miscellaneous tech issues since the call started, but I think I've stabilized now. Let's see how this goes. Okay. So hello, everyone. My name is Drini. I'm one of the full-time staff here at Open Library, and I'd like to talk to you about some of the projects I've been working on this year. So the first project I'd like to talk about is the Library Explorer, which is currently beta. If you saw the Library Leaders Forum, this will probably look very familiar, but I'll give a quick demo sort of how the Library Explorer looks and operates. So like folks mentioned, and like Nick so eloquently worded, the Library Explorer is like a library in your browser. The way you navigate through this in Browser Library is in sort of 2 dimensions. Excuse me here. So you can move left and right, and you'll move through top level classes, so social sciences, languages, science, and so on. These are sibling classes. And then if you move down, you'll move through subclasses. So under language, we have general language, linguistics, English and Old English languages, Germanic languages, and so on. If you want to get deeper inside the hierarchy, you can use these little arrow keys. So under German and related languages, if you go deeper, you have, well, I guess German and related languages, writing systems of German, etymology of Standard German, and so on. And then if you click the little index icon, you see all the different subclasses of that shelf. So you can jump to a specific one and see the books inside it. Another important way of sort of navigating deeper into the library is this little expansion icon. So for example, if you're interested in French and related languages, if you expand this row, this entire row becomes a bookcase. So now French and related languages is a whole bookcase, and each row, each subclass is now its own row. So now you can much more quickly and easily browse through the subclasses. And because Germanic languages were a sibling of French, if you scroll left, now Germanic languages are here. And so you've kind of shifted into a new room, into the languages room. There are the 400s, and you can go back by clicking this little go up button. That's sort of the core way you navigate through the Library Explorer. Then I'd also want to share some interesting little features this type of UI allows. So one of the cool things we can do with all the books sort of laid out in this bookcase view is we can filter them all. So for example, if we filter the books by juvenile, now we have an entire library that's full of children's books, essentially. And we still have the same structure, the same familiar structure of linguistics, and then after it is sciences. So you can sort of, the playing field doesn't change underneath you. If you learn the playing field once, it's sort of the same, no matter what sort of filters you apply. And you can also apply custom filters if you use the search box here. And then the last sort of smaller feature I'll show is you can change the way the books look. So this is the default view because it's the most performant. But if you have a newer computer, you can make the books appear like little sort of 3D pop-up books to make it feel a little more like a library. And then if you're feeling especially nostalgic, you can zoom out in your browser. And then you have sort of a whole little library slowly come to life. Not that you can read the books, but it's kind of nice to look at. So that's Library Explorer in a nutshell. You can check it out at dev.openlibrary.org/explore. It's currently in beta, so that means everything should work, but there might be some performance issues and some browser issues. So play around with it, scroll around with it, and try it there. I wanted to spend a short amount of time just talking a bit about sort of the design direction and how we got to this user interface. So the whole experience is based on, let me zoom back in here. The whole experience is based on is based on classifications. So Dewey Decimal or Library of Congress classifications. So these are technology that's existed for over 100 years that's been carefully curated by librarians that basically places each book in this sort of tree. So whether it's languages or languages, philosophy and theory of international languages and so on. So in programming, this is a tree which you can move around in. The first interface we explored that lets you navigate this tree is something like this, where you sort of pick the specificity of each level. So you can pick, excuse me, you can pick language and then French and then etymology and so on, and then you'll see the books out there. But we quickly realized that users and readers don't really want to interact with the hierarchy that much. They want to interact with the books. The books are the main thing. The hierarchy is built around the books. Users want to be navigating and moving around through the books. So this was the sort of first draft that took this project off the road, but then we shifted to exploring more options about around this bookcase model. And now I'd like to pass it off to Tene and Ziad and James, who have some beautiful mock-ups they worked on for different ways that we can represent these books in this bookcase model. Are you there, Ziad?
If not, maybe I can do a really quick. Do you mind advancing to the next slide?
Mm-hmm.
So we were really lucky to make a post on Twitter right around the time that Drani had already come up with an initial prototype for and designs for the Library Explorer, and said, we love the idea of making books more accessible in the browser. Is there anyone who would like to help dream with us and come up with some designs and concepts? And Ziad, Tene, and also James rose to the occasion and spent a bunch of time coming up with some mock-ups that you can see if you click on the word concept in the title, Library Explorer concept.
Would you like me to?
Okay. Oh, that's okay. It's just for folks at home if they want to later. The things that are kind of unique about this design that might actually give us opportunities in the future is on the top you can see a bar that shows all of the top level classes kind of in one place. It's kind of like a fixed position. It's a nice way to see all the categories side by side and just be able to click quickly to seek in. Another thing that's kind of interesting is showing I think in one of the mocks we show how many books are on each shelf, and that's kind of a nice little improvement that we could make to give people more clarity into how many books are actually available for each category. And then finally, the vertical numbers give you kind of a quick mini map to jump around in the model. So between the phenomenal work that Drini has done to design the overall experience and the shelves and the interactions and some of these forward-thinking concepts, we're really excited to take this into the next iteration and iterate on feedback from the community. Do you want to help people get an idea of how they might be able to leave feedback?
So huge thank you to Ziad, Tene, and James, and the other person whose name I've forgotten, darn it, who was also on the design call and helped us. Do you remember, Meg?
I know there was Jim. There might have been other folks as well.
Oh yeah, Jim as well from the UX team for discussing these designs and providing feedback and putting all the work into creating these mock-ups as well. So yeah, please do try it out. We'd love your feedback. You can leave feedback in sort of two ways. I'll just show you here directly. So if you click this little let me close the settings. If you click this funny little feedback icon, you can either go to a Google form to provide feedback, which is just free form, enter whatever you like, and we'll take a look. Or if you'd like to, if you're a Twitterer, you can share it on Twitter and click that link and it'll set up a tweet, pre-filled tweet. Anyways, after Library Explorer, I want to talk about a few smaller projects that I worked on. So reading stats, which again, Nick phrased more eloquently than myself. I wish I could remember exactly what he said because it was well phrased. But so reading stats was, I worked on this around the time that the Black Lives Matter things were happening. And I was trying to think of what sort of using our position as a library and a place that people read books, what's something that we could sort of do to help people recognize any internal biases they might have. And so this is the closest thing I could come up with. The way this works is it works with data hosted on Wikidata, and it connects the authors on Open Library to the authors hosted on Wikidata. And Wikidata has a lot of wonderful information like the author's sex or gender, their ethnicity, their country of citizenship, and stuff like that. So then we can let a user see into which sections they're reading on, and if they wish to do so, alter their behavior based on the information they get. So that's all I'll say about that. A big thank you to Charles, who did the linking sort of between Open Library and Wikidata, which made all this possible. And I would also like to note that this is one of the wonderful things about linked data, like the modern data web, because now we can just tap into that rich network that Wikidata offers, and they can tap into ours, and we can sort of help each other in a sort of decentralized way. The other UI, the other thing I wanted to share, and unfortunately my tech issues were happening during Lisa's talk, so I don't know what she shared with you, but so this is the merge work UI. In a nutshell, it lets librarians select books wherever they appear, either in search results or in an author page, and then introduces a sort of a toolbar for librarians where they can then click merge works, and then they get shown this big gold table, which is sort of like an arithmetic operation that shows what you're adding together and what the final result will be. So you can sort of try to catch errors that way. But the thing I want to note about this is that this is sort of a stepping stone to what we're thinking of as the ILE, or the Integrated Librarian Environment, which is where we're trying to apply these more standard desktop interactions, like clicking to select things, right-clicking, click and drag, those things that people are already familiar with, to help librarians just multiply their productivity.
And that's kind of a riff off of, for any developers in the room, the IDE, the Integrated Developer Environment. This is our librarian version.
Exactly. Inspired by things close at hand. And then some quick little things I wanted to share that were done this year. So classification search. So now you can use Open Library search box to search by Dewey Decimal Classification or Library of Congress. You can also search by ranges. This was what made Library Explorer possible. So that was a great feature to do. The full Solr reindex to production flow, that's a lot of technical jargon, but basically what that means is we now have a way to look at all the data in Open Library and generate a new search index. So that this was an essential step for making classification search possible. And now we can also take that fully to production, which was a huge hurdle and even last week caused issues, but it seems to be stable now. And then another big win from the development side is that we've gotten our local development environments to much more closely mirror our production environments. And this will be sort of a big stepping stone with the work that Chris is doing. I keep touching my mic. With the work that Chris is doing on allowing the production environments to be all containerized and Dockerized, and on allowing people in the community to contribute to things that they right now can't contribute to, because it would require somebody who's on staff to install software on a magic server somewhere and do some random thing. And finally, the last thing is Sentry, which is this wonderful tool that lets us, which I think Chris mentioned, and I was having issues doing everything, and that Tracy and Isa on the UX team put in a ton of work on setting up at the Internet Archive, and which we've tapped into. But this is wonderful, and it lets us see errors in real time whenever they happen on Open Library. So now we have this huge sense of transparency into how the system is doing. Okay, I think that's it for myself. Back to you, Mike.
Do you mind progressing to the next slide?
Oh, sure, okay.
One thing I would love for everyone to notice is that Driney's slides span librarian tools, core DevOps, user interface design and experience, data integrity, data linking. We are extremely lucky that Drini is on the team, and he's been driving a ton of different projects, especially given that Open Library only has 2 to 3 full-time staff working on it at any given time. And considering just how much of our time also goes into trying to support the community, it's critical that the members of our team are superstars who have a wide breadth of knowledge. And I'm extremely grateful to be able to work with both Drini and also Chris and Lisa and Tabish and the rest of our full-time staff at the Internet Archive, and the support of both Brenton and also Brewster for making all of this happening. So we've kind of given you an idea of where we came from, everything from keeping the lights on in 2017 to helping build the community again, have a library where everyone can work together and sponsor books, trying to get the word out. This month, we're going to be talking about our 2021 roadmap. Traditionally, this time period, 11:30 a.m. Pacific on Tuesdays, is when the Open Library meets and has much shorter versions of meetings just like these, where we all take turns kind of taking notes, putting our heads together and figuring out what our direction should be. We're tinkering with the idea of, or the theme of being a good neighbor for 2021. There are many book services all across the web that would love to integrate with borrowable books and enable that as an option for their community. And Open Library can only reach a certain number of people just from the openlibrary.org website. So we want to be a good neighbor and see how we can step up to help Wikidata, to help Bookbrains, to help Storygraph, to help create prototypes like the best book on. We would love, if you can progress to the next slide, please. We would love for you to join one of our future Open Library calls, which I promise you'll have time to speak during those. This was more of an exceptional end of year presentation. And there's a link to the volunteer page where you'll be able to contact us, and we can make sure that you get an invite and all of the information. It's actually the same URL, the same Zoom URL will enable you to join one of our future calls, and you can have a say in our direction for the next year. Other than joining our road mapping meeting next Tuesday, I also want to invite you to leave tweet feedback on the Library Explorer, help us get the word out. Try Tabish's BorrowBot, which is a fun way to check if books on Amazon are also available in the Internet Archive's lending library. Help Lauren out and Jim Champ and Asif by contributing a book recommendation, or just leave us feedback. Your presence and your continued willingness to use Open Library and sometimes suffer the slight bugs that we have is what gives us the inspiration to keep doing great work. So thank you for being here. And I guess the last slide is enjoy books. And thanks to you, patrons, for making this a really satisfying job for us to do. All right, congratulations everyone for your work this year. I know it's hard getting up in front of a bunch of people and presenting what you've been working on. I'm so proud of all of you and very grateful to be serving as your Open Library janitor and making your work possible. Thanks all, and I will see you next week. I'm gonna turn off the recording, and if anyone does want to jump in and ask questions, then this would be a wonderful time. I know we were right around 1 hour and 40 minutes. We're planning for 1.5 hours. Thank you for your patience and for joining us.